So Game Freak has just revealed a brand new game. And it's not Pokémon, and it's not being developed for the Nintendo Switch, instead being showcased by Xbox of all companies. And this game looks quite ambitious, especially for Game Freak. Graphically, this looks absolutely insane compared to the latest Pokémon games. And this of course has sparked quite a lot of discussion among the Pokémon community about what this means for Game Freak and Pokémon games. Why can't they look like this game? Of course, they have made games other than Pokémon in the past, but they've always been sort of smaller in scope. But this new game revealed, called Beast of Reincarnation, seems like a whole nother beast. So let's take a closer look at this new IP and what it could mean for the future of Game Freak and of course the Pokémon series. Now, you guys can probably tell I'm not in my usual setup. I've actually been on vacation for the last 2 weeks or so. I'll be back in Chicago next week though, with plenty more videos and coverage on Legends ZA and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's new update. But for this video, let's begin with the new project itself. Beast of Reincarnation is the title, but this game had actually first been revealed over 2 years ago now under a different name, Project Bloom. So I found this article from Polygon back in May 9th, 2023, so over 2 years ago. Back then, it was announced that Game Freak were teaming up with a Western publisher called Private Division, which was part of the larger company Take-Two Interactive. But since then, Private Division was sold and renamed to Fictions Inc., which is the publisher you see in the latest trailer for Beast of Reincarnation. My point with this little history lesson is that Project Bloom or Beast of Reincarnation seems to have been in development for a pretty long time now, at least since 2023, and it's not due for release until 2026, which is a lot longer than any single Pokemon game has gotten in the last, decade. Though it seems Game Freak is slowing down a little bit, at least with Pokemon Legends ZA, I believe is the longest time we've had of development for any Pokemon game recently. And the first thing I thought when I saw that they're developing another game alongside Legends ZA is Game Freak already spread themselves pretty thin, developing multiple Pokemon games at once. And they're not exactly known to be the biggest gaming studio, but from all the way back in 2012, maybe even before, Game Freak actually launched a side sort of in-house studio called the Gear Project, whose focus was to develop games outside of Pokemon, more original but smaller ideas meant to inspire creativity and new sort of technological advancements in the company. The Gear Project has led to the creation of games like Harmonite, Pocket Card Jockey, Tembo the Badass Elephant, and of course, Little Town Hero. And in case you've never heard of those games, well, that's because most of them didn't exactly pop off. But now we get to Beast of Reincarnation, the latest game revealed to be coming out next year, and compared to all the other games I just mentioned, this literally looks like a completely different beast in terms of graphics, scope, even gameplay. So you're probably wondering how they were able to produce a game like this while Pokemon still looks like it's stuck in 2012. Joe Merrick, the owner of Cerebi, posted a reminder that Game Freak's Gear projects are largely outsourced projects with a small team at Game Freak leading it while development is primarily outside of the company, so it doesn't impact Pokemon's development. So while the director, for example, is a direct Game Freak employee, most of the people actually working on these other games are from other studios, so it doesn't affect the quality or Pokemon's workforce. You know, it's not like they're taking 50 employees from Game Freak that could be working to make Pokemon better to make these games. So where does the problem lie then? Why can't Pokemon games look this good? First of all, I don't think Pokemon ever will look like this because it's just a clear difference in art style, first of all. Even when Pokemon has attempted to do more realistic looking games like Pokken Tournament or New Pokemon Snap, they're not really going for hyper realism. However, those two games I just mentioned were also outsourced, or at least collaborations with other game studios. There was another interview with Game Freak back when Project Bloom was first revealed in 2023, where Game Freak's general manager of Development Department 1, aka the Gear Project, said, "Game Freak came about out of our experiences of independently creating home video games, so we want to preserve the approach of personally wanting to create something new and unique. Even if resources are tight, we won't stop working on original games. As a company, we have to take on new challenges, and as creators, we certainly want to make fun new things." And this is where I think Project Bloom can truly shine, because I feel that for the last few years, Game Freak have played it very safe when it comes to Pokemon. I mean, there's definitely some cool new ideas in some of the games. The upcoming Legends EA with the whole real-time action battle system will hopefully spark some new creativity into the series, but then there's clearly some other corners being cut or features just not carrying over from previous games. Overall, in game development, I've noticed that when developers are forced to basically make the same kind of game over and over, you definitely get burned out or bored over time, and that leads to less inspired looking games. So having these other side projects and ideas for Game Freak to work on must be super refreshing for the employees there. And since I assume they're all working in the same building, or at least communicating with each other, ideas from these other projects can influence Pokemon games, hopefully for the better. Not saying the next Pokemon game is going to be full-on Souls-like, but some of you guys that watch my streams may know I am a huge fan of the Souls series, all the way back from Dark Souls 1 to the latest game, Elden Ring, is probably in my top 3 games of all time. Beast of Reincarnation is described as an RPG built around demanding technical combat. And Souls games are definitely notorious for their difficulty, so for them to be calling it demanding technical combat, seems like this new Game Freak game will lean more into difficulty. And though the first trailer looks pretty promising, there's not too much gameplay here. It's really a lot of cutscenes, and even one of those cutscenes kind of speaks for itself here. You can see the frame rate drops pretty significantly. So how did none of the Xbox higher-ups see this and be like, you know, maybe not a good idea considering Game Freak's recent controversies with performance in games? Like, maybe we shouldn't keep that 2 FPS cutscene in there, guys. On the other side of the coin though, the last time Game Freak fully outsourced a different studio to make a Pokemon game specifically, it didn't end too well. Oftentimes I see people asking why don't they just get Monolith Soft to make the next open world Pokemon game? That's the company that did Xenoblade and I believe a lot of the work in Breath of the Wild. So as always, the answer is a little more complicated. And this is my own speculation at this point. I would guess that there's just too many restrictions in place in terms of sticking to the formula and you know, with Pokemon now being the highest grossing media franchise of all time, there's a lot of pressure to produce a game that'll guarantee the company's next few years are, I guess, stable. So maybe Game Freak just likes to play it safe with the main game releases, not going too far out of the established formula, because at the end of the day, if it ain't broke, you know what they say. And Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are quickly on the rise to becoming the highest selling Pokemon games of all time, despite all their flaws, which I still find insane. So clearly their priorities are different when it comes to Pokemon games and their side projects. They just give the developers of those a lot more freedom than when it comes to Pokemon. The important thing to note here is that this new game will not at all affect development of Gen 10. I don't think they're taking Pokemon developers and putting them to this new game. And if anything, I hope that it inspires them to create something a little more ambitious, and maybe even for Pokemon Company to ease up on trying to release a new game every year. You know, give them a little bit more time to develop these new ideas, which it does seem they're going towards that direction. Like Legends EA has a much longer development time than any of the more recent Pokemon games, so maybe Gen 10 will also get a little bit more time, although the 30th anniversary is also next year, I believe 2026. It seems like they would want to do Gen 10 at that time as well. I mean, I really want to see Pokemon improve on their open world with the next generation, if they're choosing to stick down that route, which I think is most likely going to happen. Let me know what you guys think of Project Bloom in the comments below. Will you be playing this new game just because it's Game Freak on it? Or maybe because you love Souls-like games as much as I do? I hope it's good. For Game Freak's sake, it'd be really cool if they actually start popping off with games other than Pokemon. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next video.